Hi, welcome to Dr. Lisa Solsenti's podcast, and I'm Dr. Lisa Solsenti. And today we're going to talk about fats. We're going to talk about the good versus the bad. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I find there's a lot of confusion when you're on social media and what a lot of people have to say, and you're trying to work on your diet, you're trying to get better, trying to get healthier. Maybe you're going to trying to overcome a health challenge, and you want to understand food better. So where I want you to think about, or where I want to begin and what I want to have you think about, is a spectrum, like a traffic light, where we're going to talk about red being the fats that you want to avoid, yellow are the ones that you're going to think about, use some wisdom with, and then the greens are a go. Like, you're going to try to eat as many of these as you can. Like, these are the healthy things. So we're going to start with the healthy fats. They're the unsaturated fats. And they are beneficial for your heart health, your brain, your overall well-being. They're anti-cancer, anti-heart disease, anti-inflammatory. They help with hormones. They help with a lot of things. They're needed in the body, and I do believe the American diet lacks these. This is one of the biggest problems and causes of some of the diseases out there. So this is a win if you can get your body to eat more of the healthy ones. The unsaturated fats are actually broken down into two categories, and I don't really want to get into them because I feel like it doesn't matter. You just want to eat unsaturated. I'm just going to tell you which ones they are. But the categories are monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. And the difference between these two is really how many bonds they have connecting their carbon atoms. So we're not even going to worry about that because what I want you to know, that they come together and they form the family called the unsaturated fats. So your sources are olive oil, olives, avocados, avocado oil if processed correctly, nuts, seeds, fish, flax oil, flax seeds, flax meal. What's the other one I'm trying to think of? Oh my gosh, I just spaced. Chia seeds. Things like that, right? Beautiful health for you. Heart health, brain health, anti-cancer health, all of it. So we're going to get into that. Those are the healthy ones. If we go over to the other side of the spectrum, we're going to talk about some of the bad ones. And then I'm going to talk about why they're bad, and then I'm going to do the whole spectrum of all the fats. So that's the lesson for today. The bad ones, if you could take anything from this podcast, it's this. It's what's in the red. And they're man-made. They're fake. They're just manipulated in the lab. They're called hydrogenated fats. Now, the term is trans fats, but I don't like that term because what happens is in the media, you're going to hear, oh, they don't even make those anymore. They're not even allowed. The government doesn't allow trans fats. I'm not even going to go there with that. I'm going to let that go. What I want you to do, because this is about wisdom for you in your life, despite what you hear all over the place, is turn over the foods that you choose and read the ingredients. Everybody sends me that dumb nutrition label, and I don't even really pay attention to it anymore. I mean, I do a little bit. What you want to do today in America is read the ingredients, because there's so many bad things added to foods, synthetically added to foods, that is really creating a lot of the health diseases. And there is error on that nutrition label. So please go to the ingredient section. And if you see the word partially hydrogenated oil, it could say partially hydrogenated soybean oil, palm oil, sunflower oil, canola oil. I don't even know. Read what, there's so many of them. If you see the word partially hydrogenated oil, that is considered a trans fat. So I don't know where they're not in the labels anymore, because if you do potato chips, cookies, cakes, pastries, if you do bagels, if you do waffles, if you do crackers, if you go through that aisle and you want to do this one day and you want to have a little bit of fun, go through the aisles of all the boxed and packaged foods in the middle of the grocery store and just go down each aisle and start turning things over and start seeing if there's any hydrogenated oils in there, partially hydrogenated oils, and really start looking. This is the most deadly kind of fat there is. This is in the red. This is what increases your risk for heart disease. This is what increases your risk for cancer, for diabetes. It also, you're going to see triglycerides are going to go up. You're going to see cholesterol going to go up. You're going to see apolipoproteins go up. You're going to see these small little plaque particles go up. This is what is contributing to heart disease. And believe it or not, there have been studies that are blow your mind that in the 80s, They took everybody off of saturated fat. They took everybody off of red meat. They're like, oh my gosh. And I was taught that it's so deadly. I didn't eat red meat for like 10 years because it was so bad, right? Butter, saturated fats, because all we knew was unsaturated versus saturated. It's all we really knew. And we're like, oh, saturated is really bad. And so you're avoiding it like the plague. But you know what the shift went towards? It went towards carbs, but not the good carbs, which are plants and vegetables. You can listen to my podcast about that one. It went towards the box carbs. It went toward all the processed stuff, right? The fake wheat, it was all breads and bagels and pastas and chips and crackers and those fake foods in the middle of the aisle that now exploded. And what they saw heart disease skyrocket. So in the 90s and those 80s, all those studies where we're like, wow, we moved everybody to low fat. We took everybody off the bad fats and we put everybody more towards pastas and cakes and cookies. And they just started eating all these filler foods, right? And we saw heart disease skyrocket. So I'm telling you, you know what was in those? These hydrogenated oils, right? So it has a lot to do too that these carbs are empty calories and you're starting to pack on calories, and it has a lot to do with the fact that the diet shifted away from the good carbs. But that's a carb talk, and I already did that. So the fats were in a lot of these products as well. So what we found out now as we moved forward is the most dangerous fats are these partially hydrogenated oils. Fried foods, baked goods, cookies, cakes, crackers, pastas, and you can do whole grains. Don't get me wrong. You can do whole grains. Listen to the carbs. I'm not against rice. I'm not against, healthy pastas. You could do it whole grains. I grew up with grandparents in Italy, like Italian, making and rolling their own pastas from scratch. So it has to do with enriched and bleached again. And man gets in and ruins the wheat and ruins the product. But I want you to just understand the fats a little bit bad. Now, what they do with a trans fat? Why is it so bad? Like, Dr. Lisa, what are you so upset about? What I'm upset about is what they do is the word saturated versus the word unsaturated means that it has parking spots open in it, which really comes down to bonds, double bonds, single bonds between carbon atoms. You don't need to know all that. What you just need to know is think of the fat, the unsaturated healthy fat, having parking spots available. And it's a healthy, beautiful fat made in nature, and it's good for you. And what man did at some point was like, let's bring this into a lab and let's manipulate it and let's fill up these parking spots with hydrogen atoms. And so what we did is we not only saturated it, because we filled up as many that's what saturated means. You're filling up the empty parking spots with hydrogen. Now, a naturally saturated fat we're going to talk about, that's not as bad because it's naturally done. But when you manipulate it in the lab and you throw hydrogen in these empty parking spots, it's called hydrogenation. And that's what partially hydrogenation is, and hydrogenated fats are. They're fake. They're manipulated. They're man-made. We did this in my undergrad when I was getting my nutrition dietetics degree, and we took butter, which is a beautiful saturated fat, and we manipulate it with hydrogen. We manipulate the bonds with hydrogen. And we came out with margarine, which was one chemical bond away from plastic. It's disgusting. And I never touched it ever again. So all those fake butters, turn them over. They're all partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. They're manipulated in a lab. And this is what I want people to start understanding is that this is all fake food. This is Frankenstein food. And this is what they've been doing to us. And I did it in the labs. This is what they've been doing to us. And they're convincing us. And it's done very well with marketing. Butter is so bad, have margarine. Well, margarine is worse. Butter's in the yellow, maybe the green, and it's in margarine's in the red. Now, you might say today in 2024, I already know this, but do you? Because those oils, those partially hydrogenated oils, they're in your tortilla chips, they're in your pretzels, they're in your potato chips, I see people eating this stuff all the time. I mean, they're in your fried foods, probably your French fries. They're in your cakes, your cookies, your crackers. What are you feeding your kids? Check the Goldfish, check the Cheez-Its, check the Cheerios, check all of them. Start going up and down the aisles and everything you're eating and read the ingredients. You do not want to see partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated oils. You don't want to see these unhealthy fats. They do the opposite of the good things. So now they're going to increase your heart disease risk, your stroke risk. They're going to increase plaque in the arteries, right? They're going to actually increase inflammation in the body, increase your risk for cancer. So you have to ask yourself, what's going on here? I have patients come to me like this all the time, and they're like, oh, my cholesterol's up. They want to put me on drugs. I said, okay, are you going to want to learn how to lower this in the mindset? They go, yes, yes, yes. Are you going to do what it takes? If they say no, I'll be like, well, the medication might be your solution, because if you don't want to reverse this on your own, I'm not too sure what else your options are. And then a lot of people are like, no, I want to figure out how to do this naturally. And that's what we do. And I've been doing that for 27 years or 30 years, because had my nutrition degree longer than my chiropractic degree and my functional medicine degree. So, we've been reversing, oh my gosh, diabetes and horrible cardiac panels forever without medication. But you got to do the work. You got to change your lifestyle. And so think of the seesaw that I said in the beginning. You want the good fats, the healthy fats, higher and you want the bad fats lower. Now, if you can get rid of the red fats, amazing. And you're only down to green and yellow, that's awesome. That's a great life. That's why I don't like the word moderation. Everyone's like, oh, doc, everything in moderation. I'm like, I don't know what that means. It's an ambiguous word. I don't know what your lifestyle's like. No, I don't use that word. So let's get back to the spectrum. The bad fats are these man-made fats, these hydrogenated oils, okay? And then you could put right on the border of the red and the yellow, you could put some of the processed meats. You could put at the top of the yellow because they are a bit manipulated, but I pause because some of the companies actually do like chicken sausage. And if you read, it's just some chicken, it says some celery. I'm not a great sausage. Hot dogs would be in the green. The green, oh my gosh, the red. You have to really know the product and the garbage that is in the product. Some of these sausages and hot dogs and what are some of the meats? Bacon. A lot of these they're fats, they're saturated fats, like they're heavy in fat, but then they get so manipulated with chemicals, nitrates, hormones, sulfites, nitrites, all that stuff that they become a pretty dangerous thing. So you have to be careful of these processed foods, the lunch meats, things like that, and really kind of understand what you're eating. Then we get into the yellow for good, like strong yellow, and you're in the animal products. So again, it depends on the patient's lifestyle for me. It depends on what they're doing. I'm a big food sensitivity person and food allergy person. So if your body's attacking dairy, we're not going to allow you to have it. It's just too inflammatory for you. You have antibodies of tons of dairy, especially if you have both the IgE and the IgA. I'm like, this is overwhelming for your body. We can't have you inflamed because diseases love inflammation, loves it. It's like, yeah, when you have a garden and the soil's bad and unhealthy, you're going to get a diseased garden, and pests love that, When you have a healthy garden and everything's strong and robust, you get a really good flowers, really good results. So that's how I see the body. So dairy, this is what was bad in the 80s and 90s. Don't have dairy because it's a saturated fat. So, the unsaturated was the healthy, the fake hydrogenated is the unhealthy, and in the middle is this thing called saturated. And so these are really your animal products, right? Except coconut actually is a saturated fat and is really healthy. So that's why saturated, to me, it just really depends on the person's lifestyle. Are you having red meat every single day? I would be like, hey, if you're not attacking red meat and you don't have an autoimmune and you don't have inflammation going on in your body and you exercise, we might have a conversation about red meat for you, right? But if you can't have it, it comes up on my testing and you have apolipoproteins up, your cholesterol's up, your triglycerides are up, you're sedentary, you're inflamed, or you have a thyroid disease, we might have conversations about the saturated fats. But again, butter outwins margarine by tenfold. If you ask me which one to do, I'd be like butter, but how much butter? See, this is where we have to have the conversation, and that's why it's in the yellow. My dad, who I love to death, he will cover his bread to the point where I'm like, are you having bread with the butter or are you having butter with the bread? And he's had 2 open heart surgeries, and I love him, and he knows this, but you got to look at the yellows, like how much of this are you going to do? So let's get over to the green, and that's going to bring you to Well, I have to go back into the yellow. I'm sorry, because chicken and turkey have less fat than, I guess the red meats and some of the meats. So, chicken and turkey is actually pretty healthy there. And then the green, I'm just being very specific about. Again, don't get offended. I'm not saying don't have, chicken or turkey or anything like that. But the green is where you bring that seesaw up, where you make your biggest impact. If you put more of these in the diet, or you don't have them in your diet, start including them. So if you drop the red down to the floor and you get the greens up and enjoy the yellows in the middle, that's a beautiful life. And you exercise and you work on your gut microbiome and you remove your food sensitivities. You're just doing wonderful, right? We talk about all the stuff. Your vitamin deficiencies, your micronutrients are super important. But the green, let's talk about the green. The green is, we're going to talk about the fish. So now you've moved away from animal products. You're going to get into the fish. And now we're in the pure unsaturated fats. So for your fish, the ones that are the best for healthy fats is the cold water fish, because the fish have this oil between their meat and their skin, and that's that fish oil. And so the ones that are in the cold that have that most amount of fish oil is the one that is got the most omegas in it. So that's really, really healthy and very protective of your body. It reverses the bad fats. Remember, it's like a seesaw. So you want your cold water fish, and then you're going to move over to plants. Beautiful plant life. So this is what we talked about before with avocados, avocado oil, your nuts, your seeds, your chia seeds, your flax, and things like that. And believe it or not, coconut is one of those things that is considered a saturated but super healthy. So coconut and coconut meat, coconut oil, the pure coconut milk, just pure coconut. So that's really, your healthy fats are right there. I had a thought that I wanted to say, and I'm trying to grasp it before I end this, because I think I'm losing the thought. But maybe it'll come back to me. But the one thing I wanted to say, and I'm going to have a podcast on cholesterol, because it's very controversial, and the way I learned it, it's really not the way it is anymore. So that's the beautiful thing about the future, is that we learn so much more about a topic. We didn't know a lot about it in the 80s and 90s. And it was very limited. And so today there's just more knowledge about fats. Let me give you an example, is that I didn't know what an apolipoprotein A or B was. I didn't know what these little fat particles were. And now my thought came up that I wanted to share with you. Think of a bad fat as a spitball. And I hope I'm not aging myself and someone's like, Dr. Lisa, what's a spitball? If you don't know what a spitball is, it's like chewing on a piece of paper. We used to chew on the straw paper, and then you would mush it in your mouth till it was wet, and you would put it in the straw and you would spit it at someone. And usually, no offense, the boys were spitting at us, and we would spit back. So, or we didn't, so we didn't get in trouble. But that was a thing. And when you spit the spitball, it's wet. It's a wet paper, so it'll stick to the wall. So I think of bad fats in the red, these hydrogenated oils and these bad man-made fats, these manipulated things in a lab, as spitballs in your arteries, and they harden in there. If you can't visualize that, think of toothpaste. You can see that when you brush your teeth and you spit and you didn't get all of it, and you go back later and you've got some hard toothpaste like in your sink. And I imagine that it would do that in your plumbing too. So that's how I think of bad fats. The good fats, I think of as like the vacuums going in and cleaning up those spitballs. I think of them as flowing so beautifully through, like just, if you were on a water slide and you're just flowing really nicely and you're cleaning up the spitballs along the way. They're little Pac-Man. They go in there and they vacuum up the bad stuff. So when I ask you which fats do you want in your body, you're going to want the green, right? And you're not going to be afraid too much of the yellow, but the red you should really avoid. And I think the American diet, we all can agree, is so high in the red, that the seesaw is so high. And I'm no perfect person either. My family does the chips and the crackers and the cookies as well. And the fast foods, they're just loaded with these bad fats. And that is what is driving the diseases up in America. It's one of the things, combined with our lifestyles and stress and stuff like that. So cholesterol, if I can get back to that, and I'm going to bring it into a podcast, is it behaves more like a hormone, and it's a big particle, so we don't today think it's the thing causing the plaque on the walls. It goes in there and cleans that stuff up. It's actually needed to make your hormones. It's needed for certain vitamins. It's just needed in the body, and it's needed at higher levels today than we're being told. And some of these medications are suppressing it. We're actually learning in the last year or two that it's needed to keep the brain healthy. So dementia is associated with like low cholesterol. Now, you might say, well, it's really bad to have it super, super high. Well, it's a buoy to me. It's a buoy. It's like going off, and I always look at working with patients as an iceberg. I'm going to leave you here. My job is when I see the tip of the iceberg, I see the buoy going off, and I'm not going to go, here's the medication for that. What I want to do, which I can't do, but supplements behave the same way as medications. I just give you a supplement and go, here, get rid of that symptom. That's not what I do. What I want to do is put my scuba gear on, put it on you, grab your hand, dive down, and see what's the cause of this buoy. So if cholesterol is going up, it's a buoy. And instead of just going right to medication or going right to some herbs that might help you lower it, you want to dive down and you want to say, why? What's causing this to, be a red flag? We're being like, hey, could you please look over here? So again, diet is one of them. Right? These bad fats are definitely going to, buoy this thing. So we could go there. We can see like, let's look at your diet. What are you eating? I'll teach the patient this thing about fats. I'll see what they're eating. We'll teach them about the healthy fats. But did you know that if a bacteria is leaving your gut, if you have a leaky gut and bacteria that are supposed to be in your gut to keep you protected leave the gut and get into your bloodstream, they actually, think of nails on a chalkboard. This is going to be like gross. They scrape the walls of the artery and they damage it, and they create arterial damage, and that creates heart disease. So we have a lot of bacteria that actually can get into our bloodstream. Think about it, from our mouth, from our gut microbiome, from a leaky gut, that can be ruining the arteries too. So cholesterol is going to go out there if you have enough of it and try to protect it, try to fix the arterial damage, try to repair. It's a repairer, right? And this is the big thing. So I didn't know back in the 80s or 90s that how important cholesterol is, how protective it is, how you need it for your hormones, ladies, and that it will buoy with heart disease. Yeah, but it's going to buoy with other things as well. Thyroid problem, it's going to go up. You might not have heart disease. You might just have an hormonal imbalance. So estrogen going up, estrogen going down, progesterone going up, progesterone going down, testosterone. It's just, there's so many reasons why this thing could be buoying. But what we also didn't know back then is, and again, I'm getting into the cholesterol talk, is when you look at the cardiac panel, you have to look at these things, these inflammatory markers. There's little plaques, which are, these apolipoproteins, these small little plaques and inflammatory markers. And you got to look at things like CR protein. There's just so many other things to look at. It's like, how much is this person really at risk here? We look at MTHFR for heart disease. We're going to look at nutrient deficiencies. Leaky gut is huge. There's just so many things. You can't just say, oh, I have high cholesterol, and call it a day. So I hope you enjoyed this talk. I'm sorry I went over my promised 20-minute podcast, but fats is a huge thing here. And I know the bad news is you really should avoid all the box things and the packaged things in the aisle. When you go to the food store, you should eat real food, whole food, nature's food, God's food, and you should be more in the refrigerated aisles. I get that. That's maybe the bad news, but is that so bad? Is it really so bad to avoid harmful, synthetic, man-made crap? I don't even want to call it food. I'm just going to call it crap. I hope you don't offend you by that word. But is it so bad that there is a way to get healthy? And I think it's great to have control like this and understand them and wisdom. So again, this is for educational purposes, for wisdom, and it's not to replace your medical care, but I hope that it helps you in your journey. See you at the next one.